Hello, everyone. Thank you again for watching. Gordon Causey on this. It is still the 16th of December, Saturday, very late Saturday night, Eastern time, my time. Although anyone watching this is probably going to watch it hours or days later. And I have Candy bugging me for her treat. Shake. Lay down. Speak. Yeah, good enough. And there she goes. All right, I have someone watching. If you want to chat, you're more than welcome. The chat box is open. I'll see it. I made 3 predictions back in April 30th of 2023. April 30th just passed. And in that video, I made 3 predictions, and only one of them came true. The first prediction was I saw the declaration of a climate emergency, either internationally, like by the UN or maybe even the World Health Organization, or perhaps unilaterally by a single nation like the United States or Canada. That didn't happen. We had major weather events that were blamed on climate change. The fire in Maui comes immediately to mind, the forest fires in Canada that caused smoke, and of course that was blamed on climate change. The only thing that came out of it was Joe Biden created some agency called the Climate Corps, and I think they're just going to be social media advocates, keyboard warriors trying to spread fear that the planet's going to be unlivable if we don't eliminate fossil fuels, yada, yada, yada. Basically the same stuff we've been hearing, that going back to the 1980s, that within every they keep pushing their predictions further out in 5 years and 10 years, and then the planet's going to be unlivable, and 10 years happen and everything's okay, and well, we were wrong about that, but it's going to be another 5 years, another 10 years, and they just keep going. That was one prediction. The other prediction was that this fall we'd see a reemergence of COVID or some other respiratory virus. I saw the potential for another health emergency. That didn't come to pass either. I mean, there's still a lot of hyperbolic rhetoric about RSV and flu and COVID and all this, and you can get your COVID shot now combined with your flu shot, and now we have an RSV shot. It's like the human immune system has become a conspiracy theory. And then the last prediction is the only one that came true. And again, this was April 30th past. And I said I saw the emergence of more conflict. I thought an escalation of the Russian-Ukrainian war, which you could say that's happened, but I wouldn't say too much. I mean, wars ebb and flow. Or I said maybe China would invade Taiwan. And then I said, or the Middle East is always a hotbed. Something could happen there. And that's what happened. We all know what happened on October 7th when Hamas, the governing authority in the Gaza Strip, launched a brutal terrorist attack on Israel. And then Israel has responded in an absolutely brutal and horrific fashion. I mean, anyone who's watched this channel before knows that I am a vocal supporter of Israel. They're not perfect. Something just came out in the news recently, last 2-3 days. 3 men who were being held hostage by Hamas or one of the other militant groups. There's Islamic Jihad and others. But whoever were holding these 3 men hostages, apparently they managed to escape. I believe they even put a sign up on a building that they may have been taking refuge in. And they wrote on the wall in Hebrew, escaped hostages or something like that, proclaiming themselves to IDF soldiers. And then with their shirts removed, so bare-chested, they came out with a white flag to running towards IDF soldiers, and they were all shot and killed, which is horrific, absolutely horrific. And as I understand it, the defense minister for Israel has taken responsibility for that. Kind of the buck stops here type of statement. I'm in charge. It's, the blame is on me, he was saying. And it strikes me that, when Hamas reports, I never hear them admitting mistakes. And I know that mistakes are made in war. I'm a former military member. Mistakes happen. And propaganda is to be expected. I mean, we keep hearing the numbers. I think we're at 17,700, so nearing 18,000. This is Hamas. Health authorities are saying that nearly 18,000 people in Gaza have been killed, many of them or most of them women and children. What Hamas won't tell you is whether or not women are part of their militant forces. Are they using children as part of the militant forces? By international standards, if someone is 17 or younger, you can refer to them as a child. So a question I have, but I don't expect an answer to it, is how many of those individuals killed were militants, were engaged in military action against Israeli forces. Bad things happen in war. But I'm going to keep this video under 20 minutes. So I'm going to get to my prediction for the year 2024. And goodness knows, I think there's every possibility that it could come to pass before 2023 ends, before the end of this year. And that is for an increase in war, but not necessarily in the fashion, we tend to think of war as Russia, Ukraine, as Hamas and Israel. The term you've heard used likely is asymmetrical war. I mean, not traditional warfare. In large measure, the war that's taking place in Gaza right now can be defined as an asymmetrical war. Israel goes in, the IDF goes in, and they don't know, and this is where the tragedy of these three men, these three hostages getting killed, comes into play. Israel goes into Gaza, they don't know who a combatant is, and they don't know who a peaceful civilian is. It's impossible to differentiate. The militants will disguise themselves as peaceful civilians to inflict harm on the enemy, and Israel knows this. I myself, again, I'm ex-Canadian military. I never went over to Afghanistan. I did engage. I was part of workup training for troops that were going over in 2010. And I've spoken over the years to many brothers in arms who did go over. And they described it as, it's hard for me to fathom what I was, when I wanted to go over initially. Laterally, I didn't. The situation they described is almost inhumane. There would be soldiers in a FOB, a forward operating base, that would be strongly fortified. But then patrols would go out and you'd have to cross the wire. And once you cross that wire, you're somewhat in hostile territory, and they didn't know who was friendly and who was foe. They would look on the ground and see a discarded container of some description, something that could be garbage, but it could also be an IED, an improvised explosive device. You don't know. And I think that's a situation that IDF soldiers are confronting when they go into Gaza. They don't know. They don't know who's friendly. They don't know who's a foe. They don't know who, 13, 14-year-old, 16, 17-year-old. They don't know whether, is this a child or is this someone who could be concealing explosives? Suicide bombings do take place. And sometimes what will happen, and I've heard too many cases of this, individuals would be against their will strapped up with explosives and with a remote detonating device. And instructed, to walk near foreign soldiers, and if they didn't follow those instructions, then members of their family would be killed. I mean, this is brutal. That's what I'm talking about, asymmetrical war. And what I see happening in the months ahead is, I think we're sitting on a powder keg, and that and it's a difficult topic to cover, simply because I am currently in my sphere, the people I interact with, friends, family, neighbors, etc. I do not think I know currently a single person who's Jewish. But at the same time, I know at least 2 Muslim gentlemen, and they're super nice guys, both named Muhammad. In one case, a gentleman runs a local gas station, and upon finding out that he's Muslim, I asked him if he'd found. I live in a very rural area. I asked him where if he attended mosque, and he said he does on Friday evenings. And I asked him where he goes, and he said, he was going to Bowmanville or something. He was driving an hour plus away, and I made mention to him that, did you know that there's a mosque just 20 minutes down the road in the neighboring town? And I became something of his best friend, because he was very appreciative of a Christian telling him where his prayer, where a prayer house was, or a mosque. The thing is, Islam is a difficult topic, because I think on this side of the pond, the extremist variety is less common, but I do think it exists. And I think the situation unfolding now in Israel is going to inflame the passions of those who are of an extremist mindset. Maybe marginally now, but seeing what's happening in Israel, passions get inflamed, and it can lead. There was just a case of the Ottawa police arresting a youth, so there are no details as to the individual's name, but it said that this child, technically speaking, if you're under 17, you're a child, was engaged in the planning of an attack on Jews in Ottawa. And I believe Ottawa does have not a large Jewish community, but I'm certain there are more than one synagogue, maybe a cultural center, things like that. And that's what I see happening. While the Ottawa police foiled this one, assuming their allegations are proven true, I think we're going to see that kind of thing, especially play out in Europe. When you look at the Islamic population in countries like France and Belgium, Great Britain, Netherlands, it is significant. There's a large Islamic presence throughout much of Western Europe. And Canada, our prime minister, initially was fully supportive of Israel, condemned the attack by Hamas, but now he's flipped around. I mean, Trudeau does this all the time. He starts out, when COVID came along, he started out, the government and the official line was, don't worry, everything's okay. We got this covered. We handled SARS back in 2004 or 5. I forget exactly which, 2004, 5, 6, somewhere around there. We had the initial SARS outbreak. So, we're good. You don't have to worry. And then March of 2020 comes along, and all of a sudden you're a monster if you want to leave your house, unless you're essential. And then when the COVID vaccines rolled out, Trudeau said that no one would be forced, that it would be a choice. And then, of course, we know what happened. No, but if you choose against it, we're not going to let you work, travel, go to a restaurant. You can't be a functioning member of society unless you take it. And you're a deplorable racist with unacceptable views. Flip. And then again with Israel, he went from being very supportive of Israel. Now he's joined in with those. He's flipped again. And Now he's joined in with those calling for an immediate ceasefire. And I'll tell you what will happen in Israel if there's a ceasefire, same as has always happened in the past. Hamas would love a ceasefire because it would give them the chance to reorganize, rearm, so that they can conduct their next October 7th style attack. And I do not believe that under Netanyahu, all his flaws notwithstanding, I don't believe that he is going to play that game anymore. I think this is a battle, and the only way a ceasefire happens is if Hamas surrenders and then releases all the remaining hostages. So I don't want to go on too long. I want to keep it under 20 minutes. So God bless. As always, I appreciate all the likes. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. Me injecting my voice into the public discourse on this miserable and pathetic little unmonetized channel. Very much appreciated. We'll talk to you again in a few nights. Sadly, I'm only making that one prediction. The other two about climate change, a climate emergency being declared, or a reemergence of another declared health emergency of some description. I do think those are possibilities. But when it comes to the Great Reset, Agenda 2030, and these sustainability goals and the tear down, if you're going to reset, you have to first tear down. If you want to build back better, first you got to tear everything down. And we're still in the early stages of this tear down, and I think war is probably they can introduce all kinds of, if we get a breakdown, if all of a sudden we have terrorist style attacks happening in Western Europe and North America. Canada has nearly 2 million Muslims living in this country, and the overwhelming majority are peaceful, everyday people, same as you and me. But there are always extremists, and the more you read about Islam, the more you dig into the Quran, the more you learn of the history, the more you see a darker cloud. So I'll end it there. God bless. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in a day or two or three.